Welcome to Blizzard and Bloom, the podcast where we navigate the storms and celebrate the triumphs in business and entrepreneurship. Join us as we dive into stories, insights, and strategies from top professionals to help you thrive in today's evolving landscape. And now, here is your host, Jay Rotinelli.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Blizzard and Bloom. Our last episode, we had Angelique Robb from Synced Publications, a new publication that's out there in the outdoor living industry. So hope you all enjoyed that episode. Today, fortunately, I was able to get some time with Donnie Piccarello from Pearson Nurseries. I can't say enough how helpful Donnie's been with the folks. I know my team for sure at Piscataqua Landscaping and then just whoever else has had the opportunity to work with him. So without further ado, I want to introduce Donnie. And Donnie, thanks for being on the show today. Glad to have you here. And as again, I echo the words of the team is just, you're always super helpful when we need something. So can you share a little bit about us, maybe some of your background and kind of how you got into the industry?
Yeah. My name is for Pearson. We're a grower, things landscape, herbaceous. I run the sales, but I've been in the industry my entire life in some way, shape. I started at a garden center at old and a lot of summer just kept cranking. I tried a couple times industry and really do. I really this industry. As time went on, I furthered my education to kind of industry, and it has just Pearson fourth season now. Enough good things in the direction.
That's great. I know I've personally seen, again, been in the industry my entire life, much like yourself. And, there's a lot of nurseries out there, but, and we've got great relationships with most everyone, but I've had the opportunity to watch Pearson's grow as a company and as a family business and the things that you folks are doing and the organizations that you're promoting and helping support and being a part of. And I think that's really cool stuff. So, as we talk about 2025 and coming into the growing season now, what's the general mood in the plant and nursery business of this year? I mean, what are people talking about? What are some of the challenges, some of the opportunities maybe that people are looking at?
I think a lot on exactly niche of the industry. In the nursery world, you sort of have sale gardens that really homeowner you want to pick, and then you've wholesale buying in, wholesale, and then you've got we kind of deal with, and I think on the end people are a little bit cautious, optimistic, just crazy stuff right now. Are people going to year, etc. Where we stay, where we are a retailer own business as the job we're not seeing, the houses are still government jobs, such. So I would say all the attitude is very good.
That's good. I people ask me all the time, and again, you see the ebb and flows of this industry through the ups and downs, and it's interesting because while landscaping's affected, and I would consider it more of a luxury type of service at times, it's still a necessity. And I mean, you can't get a CO until your landscaping's done most often. You can't. You're not going to rent out property if it's just a building and, there's no asphalt, paver walkways, plantings or whatever. People say, do you see a change happening? And I see a little bit of a shift, but that's all it is. I don't think it's, it's going downhill. I think, and I kind of wanted your opinion on this, but COVID was just such a falsifying term or few years for us. And it really, not only did it screw up the industry, many industries, but there was a false sense of availability and workmanship. And I feel like, people were buying everything. And then in turn, when you wanted to get some sizable stuff, you couldn't because people were selling everything. And do you see any effects of that now in the industry, or is that kind of, we're past that point, or any leftover challenges with that?
Big time.
Yeah.
I wish I could. And I asked now 2020 for the past years, telling everything better on certain. And there's a couple market that bounced back, abundance, ability, good quality, pricing, and for one market, pick your screen, Norway's fruit. Any, but really in 10, 12 range, it's pretty lean out. And that is a whole COVID. Is every home looking at their neighbor, all wanted those ways. So they on anything over.
Yeah.
And we still have from that. Maybe get a year, but very challenging. And to
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. It's I think it's going to trail us for a little bit longer. You know, people can recover from an illness pretty quick, but a plant takes a long time to grow. So takes a little bit of time to, to get into that. So what are some of, are you seeing any different trends or different plant material that people are really looking for this season that might be different from in the past? Have you seen any trends of kind of more in demand trees and shrubs?
I mean, the buzzword for the past years, green, sustainability, ecotypes, crazy. And as you know, Dale Pearson built revolving around native reclamation. So now is as a lot of the residential conservation or reclamation. So that's been interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit less, more meadow.
Yeah.
More
it's,
native.
I know, like to your point when talking about sustainability and then reclamation, like I know you folks are really, from my perspective in the Northeast, leading the charge on that. And, when we get a set of plans or something and they're looking for native plants and whatever else, like, immediately it's call Pearson's. So, when I see that, I could see that as being a trend and a self-driven one and self-promoting one that's been really awesome to see and to know that we have that resource with you folks, so that we can actually get the material. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been a good experience for sure.
The other trend is the large effect. It seems like getting a little bit bigger is your average. Two or they're almost always average conifer 6, 7, 7, 10, 12, 15, even. Well, there's definitely larger.
Yeah, it's interesting too as I see some of the plants. You talk to developers and excavation companies, and they're like, all the good land is gone, and it's like it's true and false, right? But when people now, and I do think again, COVID had a lot to do with this, but people now are creating these little small oases where they build their homes, and they want that privacy, and they don't want just a big white fence. It's kind of a screw you neighbor type of thing. They're trying to soften the looks and. So I do see a lot of that happening, and so to echo what you're saying, I could see how that's very trendy right now and a thing that's happening, and probably difficult to keep on hand with the demand.
It is.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about the sustainability. So I wanted everybody to share, if they're not familiar with Pearson's, you guys have done some cool stuff with the solar panels that you've done. We talked about reclamation plants and things like that. Are people starting to lean into that sustainability factor more from your perspective, or is it still something that people want to get into or take a look and really drive, with their surroundings, but maybe are hesitant?
That's an interesting, and it can be controversial. My point, not viewpoint of here, but yes, huge push, straight cultural eco. It's all there's definitely a time and place, in my opinion. I believe plant world as in most diversity of life. So to limit and situation things can pigeon. We're on the coast of the supply and Cape Cod type of places with fragile. absolutely your locally plants are in Palm. But then when you Boston on a rooftop does it really
Yeah, right.
she's
Well
native.
said. Good point.
So I I like the fact that people are into it. The started, but it's swung a little too to straight speed. I think pendulum back to some more variety. Again, very very plant is useful.
Yeah. It's not, it's, you can't take and flip the switch quickly with it either, right? Like you can't go from having, and then just dial it and all of a sudden it's just everything's sustainable and natural and native, because that doesn't work either. Right.
Exactly.
One of the things we've been doing is working with the University of New Hampshire with the living shoreline stuff. And we did a project over in Portsmouth. Well, we finished last season. We started the season before. And kind of back to my point, we were able to reach out to you folks, and you had all of those native species. And if you didn't have them on hand, you were able to get them, pretty quickly. So that was really handy. And we've been doing a little bit more of that. And then, this has been kind of a field experience, and UNH has been working, and they've been following up with it, and what species are working and what meadow mixes are working and what isn't. So I think it's gaining ground. And to your point, there's applications for everything, right? It's applicable on the shores of Lake Winnipesaukee, or, whatever it might be, in Maine and New Hampshire, but not applicable on the rooftops. And
Yeah.
so I guess there's a plant for everything, right? So what would you say are some of the new cultivars that people could get excited about? Is there anything out there that you're seeing that you really like that could gain in popularity, or that people might like? Is there anything that new in the past 12 to 18 months?
So that's a bit of two, in my pretty strong cultivars. I think I generally will not plant or less I've seen it almost too much. So we've got wonderful things nowadays, different winners, and the list goes on. And they're fan some of the best fruit in the world, and they their own garden for geographic they're in. So the plants, but again to man and it's really hot. And pick hydration. I bet 25 niculatus. How the heck good or better? There are cultivars that have been low growing, or like Loma, snow, that I think maybe reap the roof roll. But yeah, for the varieties come, the dwarf. I want to see those.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I came from the retail world of nursery stock. My family has a garden center, and it's always interesting to me when things come in, and let's face it, in the retail world, different plants are marketed at different times of the year, right? Based on blooms and how great they look. And they're just fantastic. And, nobody's buying creeping phlox in September typically. They're buying them in, May, right? Beginning of May. So I think about that from a client perspective. And I think about when the calls come in sometimes to us and we go out and see a prospect and they say, well, at the garden center, they had these beautiful hydrangeas and they were just, the blooms were magnificent. And I want those because I want to make sure I get that. And you really need to take a step back and say, all right, time out. What I need you to understand is that those are either forced or, they're at their peak right now, and they've been grown in the most ideal conditions. Now you're going to take that and put it on the north side of a house on Lake Winnipesaukee, or it's not going to be the same. Well, they're selling it. And those are the conversations. I'm sure you're not having a lot of those, but I don't doubt there's maybe some contractors. But when, people log on to, home and garden television, or they're seeing some of these plants, this is where it takes folks like yourself that are professionals to truly say, hey, that looks great, but in the long run, you're going to end up with just green foliage, or it's not going to bloom, or it needs to do this. So I know you folks you've been doing a lot getting out there in the community and supporting different organizations and stuff. Do you find yourself needing to educate and or providing some of that education to maybe smaller contractors or folks that maybe don't have a lot of background on that?
I all the time. It's hit the nail on either you're up landscaper or hardscape. Time to really material. So we do those clients. There's a lot of times of year dug and planted. If you're gonna even green giant plant that much Portland, Maine, are rolling with that if you're warned.
Yeah.
So try to be responsible. Flag on educate or then educate homeowner.
Yeah.
And then again, trade shows and where we're
Sure. There's even things I think about that, quite frankly, I didn't think about wholeheartedly in a lot of until later in my career. But you think about the timing, right? Like we talk about spring digs or fall digs, like there's different material available at different times of the year. So, having a trusted partner like you folks, you can reach out and maybe you don't know everything about horticulture, but, that's where the likes of yourself and Pearson's comes in to say, hey, we want to be a trusted partner with you. Like, don't buy these right now. Or if you're thinking about doing that, let me know because we got to put in for the dig, or this is going to be the better time. I know for us that's super helpful to the team. And it helps drive our schedule and sales capabilities. So, I know that's, that's really important.
I think it all level of trust. Me, team, to architect or ever. When we're having one particular fall, Indiana, big ones, the Eastern Red, and if they weren't sitting, your failure so high. Talk more people, and you sub it. Can you do not? You're better. The best we can is educate, and change, and make sure every age, and then allow whomever own decision.
That's helpful too. I know we've had some times where we've had to, we'll get a plan from a contractor in LA or whatever it might be. And, we'll reach out to folks like yourself and you'll offer some substitutions and here, this is the reason why, I think you should go with this alternative, whether it's availability or microclimates or whatever it is. And that helps us, I know, as landscape contractors, go back and have an intelligent conversation with the LA. And most oftentimes when you say, hey, I was talking to Donnie over at Pearson's and I know we're looking to do this, but the timing of the season, and then we were talking about location, he had some other suggestions maybe we'd want to entertain. And I think that really creates that trust relationship. And I know you folks have done a lot of outreach with landscape architects, some of those folks out there who are designing and speccing these things. And I think it kind of ties it all in together when we get those plans and we talk with you and maybe it wasn't a great selection, but when you have that ability and that background and knowledge to support it, I think it makes for a better relationship, more harmonious relationship in how we can actually execute that plan with maybe some substitutions.
It also helps when you're in contact with architect. Actually say, wow, we should not. I'm not just that I don't have or pick you. This is a reason it allows the decision. And then again, back to trust.
Yeah. Creating that relationship. What's, as people come into the industry and they want to learn more, I know we have the associations in Maine and we have the association in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. What's some of the best ways people can educate themselves on plant material? Folks that are even in the industry, like what's a good avenue for them? Is it something, an online thing they could look for, or they could come by the nursery, or what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if younger people interested in want to get into one of the do is go work garden center wherever that whatever it may. Even if you're menial as plants that come in, remember those. You learn about Google them.
Yep.
But really also Nick Gardens. Yeah. Visit your local whenever you can. Booth Bay, the coastal. Got the urban urban tree up. If there any of like that, but walking around, looking at plants, asking questions.
Asking the questions is certainly fulfilling in the sense that most people will share their knowledge, like yourself. Or if you deal with, let's say a hardscape manufacturer or something. So again, creating those partnerships is really ideal.
Absolutely.
How do you balance the season, the inventory, the demand, the forecasting, and the labor? Talk to me at a higher level about what goes into the nursery, because I don't think a lot of people know. I think people say, "Oh, I'm sure." I just go on and I'm sure Donnie's got 50 of these 5-gallon or whatever it might be, and don't understand what really goes into it.
You're right. And I'm currently at task force with Boston Society Architect. It is plant source realistic the design industry production side. It's that Cal is a 5-year by the time we up here, and we put it already if somebody's wrong.
Yeah.
And then 5 years, have it 2 in 7 years, 8 years. But forecasting is a wild most of them.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a wild ass guess, because I mean, I'm sure you can look at trends, but then you throw a COVID into it, or I mean, and it's like, boy, how do you really gauge that?
Yeah, we historical data, look at our sales amount of years, and we also look at casting. A lot of what we live in the bidding world, where jobs and a lot of quoting down the road. So we're sort of lists at the A.
Gotcha.
So we keep keeping on our product we carry. Then my production, my procurement person, and say, listen, process this course, or we got to do something. And then what happened for 3 years? We off the list.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What's I got a couple quick hit questions for you. What's probably would you say is your most favorite underused plant? I always wonder, like I look at folks like yourself, right? You're dealing with these things all day, every day. And I'm like, I always wonder, like in their mind, like what might be something that they say, but like, I can't believe people don't use this more.
Yeah. They get more popular, still underused, but I absolutely Heptacodium. It's a tree. It's foresty. Got this you nice clean. You've got flowers. End of the summer blooming, but would if a little mess. Stewartia, same boat. Stewartia, 4 season.
Yeah, that's a cool plant too, Stewartia, for sure.
Oh,
yeah. Let me ask you, because we kind of wrap up here, a couple more quick things. What's kind of, if you could have some advice for folks coming into the heavy growing season, and they're going to be looking for plant material and knowing that they're going to need, like, what's some advice you could give to somebody to be better prepared when they see you?
I mean, to these landscapers, as soon as you reach out to you, whether it's or somebody, and get especially deciduous tree. If it's less common, Pearson Nurseries, we will hold you. So if you do, even in the winter, you feel secure.
That's great.
For someone ready to ship, good to go. It's rambling at the last. If you're a game, and I understand always the landscape, because we're dealing years and municipalities and orders, either educate the LA making these decisions or connect them real them about availability if the thing there, or maybe it's a different tree, but it's really just stay ahead of it. Availability certain things. Get
You
those
never
jobs.
be too early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't stress. We have a lot of plants and it's they're always and you claim, but we're
Yeah, you're good at handling all of that. Yeah, and I guess kind of my last comment to that is, be flexible or try to educate the client on being flexible. And I think to your point, if there's an LA or a designer involved, get back to them and try to, create that harmonious relationship where there's that trust factor and people know that you're, out for their best interest, and not just to sell them something because that's not going to help anybody in the long run, and that doesn't create good business.
No, in the early the better. Might be involved conversation right. Don't wait until a nursery to start talking about it. It's they're 99 are very but they just surprised.
Nobody likes surprises. It's human nature. It's human nature. Oh, that's great. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough and your team. You've been a great partner for all of us here at Piscataqua Landscaping and Seabreeze when they were, and now we've merged with them. And that's it's truly meaningful and super helpful to our team. It's kind of the old cliche thing. What you don't know, right? So I know a couple times you've came in and spoken to our team and talked about different things. And when I tell you it pays dividends for both, for us and for you, I hope, it really does. It means a lot. So if people wanted to find Pearson Nurseries, where are you folks located?
So we're in Maine. We kind of just the corner of Biddeford. Our full address is.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on today, and you really hit on some key things. And as I shared with you, the better part of the audience is really looking for real life, real situational things. And I think some of the things we talked about today are meaningful and impactful. There's always little tidbits of information to give to somebody. And I think we nailed that today. And again, we appreciate the partnership and relationship. And for all the listeners out there, if you're in the Northeast, I'd do yourself a favor and reach out to Donnie at Pearson's Nurseries, whether he would be your sales rep or not, I don't know, but great company, great family business, and glad to partner with them. So thanks again, Donnie, for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. For everybody else, we're going to have Greg on the show next week from Site One, so he'll be a guest here. So we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Blizzard and Bloom with Jay Rotinelli. We hope you feel inspired and empowered. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Join us next week for more insights and stories to help you bloom in your business journey.